Let's talk about that. Let's talk about you. 'Cause our hosts Dowe and John wanna hear about the fishing you do. 'Cause we took our garments to the ends of the sea. The red hot let us where we needed to be. Nothing we can't find in all the water. We wanna hear about the holes and the beds and the reef, the keepers and the roughs and the catch and release. Let's talk about everything from reel to bobber behind the Chartplotter. Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Garmin Marine's podcast, Behind the Chartplotter, where we talk to pro anglers, industry insiders, and our occasional secret guest. As always, a special thanks to the Marty Ray Project for that great intro song. We're your host. I'm Dow Thornton.
And I'm John Spittle.
John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really, really good. How you doing, Dow?
I'm hanging in there, man. You know, John, I was doing a little reminiscing last week, and about everything that's happened in the industry and in our industry in 2020. And I'm amazed at all the new product Garmin has been able to deliver this year. It started with, I think back in February, we released Panoptix, the LiveScope perspective mount. We just introduced a Phantom 250 watt open array radar. The new Striker Vivid series just came out, the new Echo Map Vivid series. And I think, 2 weeks ago, we just announced the Striker castable sonar. For such a different and odd year, Garmin's really stepped up with new product.
Yeah, we do everything from, new Fusion stereos, Fusion speakers. So we're really covering everything in the marketplace.
Yeah, and the mapping with Garmin and Avionics, it's amazing at what we have out there now.
Well, and then the other thing that we had introduced about a year and a half ago was our forced trolling motor. And you were lucky enough to get one of the very first forced trolling motors. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've had mine about a year and a half now, a little over a year and a half.
And how do you like it? What do you see? You've used trolling motors for 25, 30 years now. What's the benefit of what you're seeing with ours?
Well, I live in Florida like you. I do a lot of flats fishing. Red fishing is the main target fish, I target. So I'm constantly on a trolling motor all day long, covering area. I cover a lot of area. And, this motor being 24 or 36 volt, I'm running mine at 24 volt right now. If I want to go up to 36 volt, I can just add another battery in it. So it's got all the power I need. I've been very impressed with that. The brushless motor, I can't hear it running, John. And I think, that brushless motor, it's very efficient. I struggled with batteries. So in the past, years and years, I couldn't get through a day of fishing on my trolling motor with my batteries. I would get 6-7 hours and then they'd be dead. So ever since I've used this motor, I don't think my batteries have gone down 50%. So very, very, very impressed with that. The wireless foot pedal, love that. I can now be at the back of the boat and work the trolling motor with my foot pedal. And the wireless remote, that gesture steering, John, where, if I see a fish jump to the left or the right, I can just point that trolling motor remote, the trolling motor will turn. So I've been very impressed with it. And I have it in salt water, every week. So it's been pretty bulletproof.
Well, that's a great story, but we really want to hear the story about the chocolate cake down in Miami. Are we ever going to hear that chocolate cake story?
Well, let's see. We may save that for a holiday show, but I doubt it. So okay. Let's get back to today's show. So, John, we have a very, very special guest today. I know when we were first talking about doing a podcast, this gentleman was on the top of the list. I grew up watching him on TV, and he's one of the reasons I started fishing as a kid. John, why don't you do the honors and introduce who we have?
Bass Angler of the Year in 1970, 74, and 77. 23 national bass titles. Member of the International Game Fish Association Hall of Fame and 1986 National Freshwater Hall of Fame. Today, our special guest is Mr. Bill Dance. Welcome, Mr. Dance, to Garmin's Behind the Chartplotter.
Thank you, guys. Great to be here.
Bill
It is
Dance
absolutely great to be with you two guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks. We really appreciate having you here. So as you guys know, Bill Dance is an angler and host of Bill Dance Saltwater and Bill Dance Outdoors, airing for 49 years. Bill Dance Outdoors is the longest running and most popular national fishing show in the U.S. Thanks again for joining us. Hey, Dow, how about we get to the hard-hitting questions today?
Sounds good, John. Bill, it's a truly an honor to have you with us. I think the last time I saw you, Bill, this year, we were at the Classic in Alabama, and that was a great Classic. We took first, second, and third with the help of a little thing called Panoptix Live Scope. But I got home after the Classic, and I've been kind of stuck here ever since. How's everything this year been with you? What have you been doing this odd year?
We've been busier than a pile of ants at a picnic. We've been taping and editing Bill Dance Outdoors and Bill Dance Saltwater for our upcoming season. Of course, we've been shooting and compiling information clips for YouTube and our other social media platforms, as well as making plans for more of the above for 21 and trying to squeeze in a fishing trip every chance we get. So we've been hopping around like a bullfrog on July asphalt. So
I know John and I, when we a normal year, we travel quite a bit. How much do you travel during a normal year?
Well, we do quite a bit of running. Of course, with the situation we're in right now with everything that's going on, it's slowed our activity down quite a bit. But we run pretty hard from January through about April, and then we kind of coast and do little spotty runs through the summer months, and then we pick up again through October, November, and December, and then it's kind of light in December, and then we start up again with normally with shows and personal appearances, but we've got to put a curve on that with everything that's going on. But normally January, February, March, and April, we do quite a bit of running, and then it starts up again in October, November, and then it eases up again in December. So, like I say, this year has been pretty light, but we got way ahead, which helped us.
Yes, sir.
Which helped us quite a bit. And we've been very, very active working on our YouTube stuff, which has been very, very popular for us. Doing a lot of stuff, a lot of our shows, we've done a big push on with YouTube on a lot of educational tips that we're running right now on YouTube. So
perfect. So,
Bill, we're staying pretty busy.
Yeah. Same with Dow and myself. We've been really busy. We're doing a lot of the Garmin webinars on YouTube. I know you talked a little bit about shows, and a few years ago, you told Dow and myself a really neat story about catfishing. Can you tell us how you use Garmin Panoptix sonar to catch catfish?
Well, that's something, when we kind of hit a lull, that's something that I really enjoy doing. And when you look at it, the popularity of catfishing, there's 8.2 million people that do this. And that really surprised me. With the American Catfish Association, which is a new organization that just sprang up, or just started. It's light years ahead of where BASS started, but it's a growing organization. And it really surprised me how many people are really, really involved in catfishing. With these national catfish tournaments that are going on across the country, from Texas to Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, across the country. It's very, very popular, and it's always been popular with me. I really enjoy it. living between two major catfish rivers, the Tennessee and the Mississippi. The Mississippi is about 20 minutes from my home, and the Tennessee, probably an hour and 20 minutes. The reason I enjoy it so much is because it's our biggest fish in the area. To drift, I love fishing moving water. I grew up fishing moving water, and it's probably still my favorite form of fishing. Fishing the Tennessee River or fishing small creeks and tributaries in Middle Tennessee. I still enjoy that. Wade fishing I love that type of fishing. But catfishing the Mississippi is it's just a joy. I really, really enjoy it. And then when Garmin came with Panoptix, it's now enabling me to see beneath the surface like never before with unbelievable detail and real-time images. It's not only great for catfish, it's great for all species like bass, crappie, walleye, and it's high, and it's very, very effective on catfish. You know, I recently had a couple of buddies use it on the Mississippi River to win a catfish tournament, and there were I believe there was about 140 contestants in that tournament. But they caught 5 catfish weighing 174 pounds. Now, these were blue cat. Now, when you look at that, that's about a 35-pound average per fish.
Nice, yeah.
And they were using all Garmin equipment. They had Echo 12s on the bow and Echo 10s on the console. And this was in the fall when the river was at lower stages. And many big blues at this time of the year, they target sand banks in lower current areas and in water depths of, say, 30 to 80 feet. Now, these fish, depending on what part of the river you're in, you might locate big fish in 30, and in other areas of the river, they may be as deep as 80 feet. But if cover's there like logs or treetops, it makes it even better. But let me kind of tell you how they went about winning it. Of course, they had their 12-inch unit on the front, on the bow. They had a 36-volt force on the front, their trolling motor. They idled, zigzag down these sand areas, usually on the tail end of a shoal, in a bend of the river, on the inside bend where the slower currents were. And they were targeting, looking for cover. They'd locate cover such as treetops or where drifts had sand had built up, log jams or whatever. And they'd spot big cats in these treetops. And there might be one cat, and the detail of the unit of the Echo map, 10 or 12, would show 1 or 2, maybe even 3 catfish in a treetop. That's how good the details of these units are. And when they do it, they'd put a waypoint on that. And then they'd idle a little bit, and they'd see another treetop, nothing there, and they'd idle a little bit further downriver, real slow. There's a treetop, there's one in it, put a waypoint on it. And they'd find several treetops, and what they'd do, then they'd go back upstream, and they'd drop the trolling motor, and they'd ease downriver, and they'd put it on anchor lock. And they'd drop it, like the current wasn't that strong, about a mile and a half an hour current, and they'd put a 4-ounce sinker on, they'd drop it down with about a 30-inch leader line, and a bait line, they put it at 24 inches. So the hook and bait was about 6 inches above the sinker. So, but anyway, they could feel the cover with the sinker before the hook got to the cover. And they drop back, of course, start feeling the bait, drifting. And the bait would be anywhere 60, 80, 100 feet behind the boat. And they'd feel that sinker hit that cover, knowing that the bait 6 inches above the cover. Working with the forced trolling motor, they'd hold back, let it hold the boat back up current. And they'd feel that cover with a sinker. And it'd touch the cover, touch the cover. Well, the Mississippi River is very off-colored. It's muddy. And catfish have an unbelievable sense of smell. They not only smell, but they can taste too. and they would detect the odor molecules coming off of the cut bait, which the cut bait is freshwater herring or skipjack, and they would move from the cover out and zero in. They'd use kind of a Z pattern, like a shark. They zig back and forth, and they would detect the bait and bite the bait and pull down on it. The anglers would catch that bait. The catfish would catch the bait, and the anglers would pull back and catch that fish right out of that cover. They'd sit there and work it and sometimes catch all three of those fish right out of that cover. Then move to the next cover spot and catch that fish. Most unique thing in the world, and could never have happened without good electronics. And we do this today. We just drift down until we see fish on the bottom, and then we put a waypoint on it, and then we come back and we drift real slow with the aid of our trolling motor, and we catch those same fish. Sometimes they're in cover, sometimes they're not. But Panoptix is changing the way we fish. Of course, Panoptix live scope can be equal effective, as I said, on all species. Let me tell you about a feature Garmin has on the units that has really paid off for me. It's called depth range shading, and I know you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my home lake is Pickwick, and long about early to mid-June, when the surface water temperatures reach about 80 to 82 degrees, when it hits about that 82 to 82 degree mark, it happens almost like clockwork. A high percentage of the bass move to the 20-foot depth level. They've been doing that as long as I've been fishing Pickwick Lake, and I've been fishing it a long time. But it's just like clockwork. When that surface water hits it around 80, 82 degrees, those fish will usually move out, a high percentage of them, to that 20 to 20-foot depth level. Now, Pickwick is on the TVA. It's a TVA lake, and it's a hydroelectric facility. And here is where the depth range shading has really helped me. It allows me to block out everything from the shoreline out to the 20-foot contour. And then I look for any key irregular feature, like a small point, drops, cuts, anything that will attract and hold fish. Now, this depth range shading feature makes things stand out like an elephant directing traffic at a four-way intersection. I mean, it just jumps off the screen. And if you use this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If there's a little bitty point there, a little bitty cut there, it could be 2 or 3 intervals right there showing a little quick drop. That anything is different along that contour line, that 20-foot contour line. Anything that's different.
Well, and I think those,
what?
I think those are great examples of how we can now, with Garmin, use our Garmin ecosystem, from our EchoMap Ultras to the force trolling motors, to the cartography that we have built in and the Panoptix sonar.
It might hold 1 fish, or it might hold 10 fish on 10 casts. But, another thing that I often do with it when I'm fishing a lake that doesn't have mapping, and there are many, using Panoptix Live Scope, it's given me, here's a quick and easy way to establish a depth that the majority of the fish are using. I'll idle out in the lake, and I'll drop my trolling motor, and I begin zigzagging around trying to establish a depth where I see most of the fish. Now, these fish can be crappie, they could be bass, they could be bait fish, whatever. Now, what I just said, I'm looking where I see the majority of fish. For example, I'm looking for suspended fish. Now, it could be bait fish, but let's just say I see the majority of the fish at 10 feet. What I do then, I'll pull my trolling motor up, and I move into a 10-foot contour. And then I rely heavily on my Panoptix Live View forward, or my perspective mode, and I keep my boat on this 10-foot contour while fan casting that depth range as I move along, anywhere from 8 to 12 feet deep. Now, naturally, my Panoptix will show fish with great detail, and the majority will be surprisingly scattered along that depth. And I'll keep my boat in that depth range, and you'll be surprised at how many fish you'll catch by working a body of water like this, even one that does not have mapping. Now, I rely heavily on Panoptix for all these features, and I know if you use it, it's going to make you a better fisherman. How I know this is because it certainly has done that for me. So there's many lakes that don't have mapping where the Panoptix can help you tremendously by just using that one little trick. Get out there with the trolling motor and start idling around where you see the majority of fish suspended. It could be anything. And where you see the majority, move into that depth and pick up that contour line and stay on it. Wherever it goes, just follow that contour depth. And you'd be surprised at how many fish you'll catch by fishing that depth.
Well, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing anglers that aren't familiar with a certain body of water. They're going in with their live scope, and they're able to go ahead and cover areas and hunt those fish and find them and catch them. So,
well, redfish are a lot like bass. Redfish will do the same thing.
Yep. And that's near and dear to Dowe and my heart. That's what we fish for down here. So let's get.
Right.
I know Dow's he's itching here. He's got a question for you, and I know that Dowe. What's your next question,
Bill? I was just wondering. I do listening to John's intro. You were bass angler of the year in 1970, your first one. Did you fish in the first classic in 71? No. You did not. I didn't think I saw you there. Why not?
Well,
if you don't mind me asking.
Well, you remember when I told you that we've been real busy?
Yes, sir.
Well, the truth is we've always been pretty busy, but back then the success of our television work was really exploding. And I was really competing with the time. I had to tournament fish. And
yes,
I'll never forget back then, Ray Scott, the founder of BASS, and Diane, my wife, both told me, they said, eventually you're going to get so busy, tournaments are not going to be your number one priority. And I looked at both of them like a cow looking at a new gate. And I said, y'all are crazy. I said, I was
pushing you away.
Well, yeah, I was eating, living, breathing tournaments. And they said, you remember what I said? And I remember Ray saying that. Ray said, we were traveling somewhere together. And Ray said, you remember what I'm telling you? Tournaments will become a second priority to you. And eventually they'll fade away. Tournaments are opening the doors for you right now, Bill. And I said, well, whatever. But they both told me eventually you'll become so busy that you're not going to have time to fish tournaments. And eventually they were both right. I had become so busy taping TVs that I was unable to fish enough tournaments to qualify. I didn't qualify for that first tournament. And it was a wise choice. Where would I be without all the success that I made that year had I dropped what I was doing and tried to compete? I remember that year. I'll tell you real quick. I remember how that year went. We were doing a local show for the ABC affiliate in Memphis, and their sister station in Jackson, Mississippi. I walked in the station in Memphis, and a program director from Jackson, Mississippi said, hey, would you object or would you consider doing a show for us in Jackson? And I said, well, sure. And I went to Jackson, and it was good because it was the state capital. The governor at that time was a big fisherman. The game and fish director was a big fisherman. The boating director was a big fisherman. It was easy to draw guests. So I would go to Jackson, and I would tape 4 shows, call and give guests meet me at the station there. I would go to Jackson over on the Mississippi, to Oxbow's over there, shoot shows, take shows from the Memphis area down there, shoot shows on Ross Barnett and various lakes in the area. And before long, I had their sister station, WBRZ Channel 2 in Baton Rouge, another ABC affiliate, said, hey, how about doing one for us? I said, okay. That happened the same year. And so I went to Baton Rouge, state capital, and I met the director there, and I could pull from a good guess from there. And all of a sudden, I came back home that same year, and the sporting good buyer for J.C. Penney. You remember the J.C. Penney stores?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
sir.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, they used to sell sporting goods. And the sporting good buyer in Paducah, Kentucky, called me and he said, hey, would you mind? We'd like to sponsor you. Would you do a fishing show for us in Paducah? And I said, well, yeah. And so I was doing 4 markets, 52 weeks a year, which developed into 208 fishing shows a year. And I didn't have time to fish tournaments.
No, not at all.
And I thought, so eventually that turned into a syndicated show for 50. And then the next year turned into 90 network markets. And the next year we went with ESPN. And ESPN was a good network, a great network. And we covered the country and Canada, Mexico. We were in Spokane to LA, to San Diego, to Phoenix, to Dallas, to Miami, to Raleigh, to New York, to Detroit, to St. Louis, to Atlanta, to Tulsa, to Dallas, to Memphis, to Atlanta. We were everywhere. We blanketed the country on ESPN. And we rocked along there for about 3 years, but the demographics just weren't there. And we hit the households for about 3 years on ESPN. And all of a sudden, there was a little network over at Nashville, Tennessee that said, we looked at it, and it was called the Nashville Network, TNN. So we moved there. And when we moved there, we picked up Walmart, Chevrolet, Purina. We hit a demographic that was so strong, and we were off and running. I mean, it was the best move we ever made.
Yeah, yeah.
And we rocked along there for 15 years, and then Gaylord Enterprises, Opryland, TNN. It kind of went south, and Viacom bought them out, and they changed the network around, and then a little network came along, and we moved with another little network for about a year or two, and then all of a sudden, Outdoor Life. Outdoor Life was a little network we went with. And then the Outdoor Channel came along. So we moved to the Outdoor Channel with Bill Dance Outdoors, and then to NBC Sports, and to the Sportsman, and then to the Discovery Channel. And then the next year I said, we started a hunting show back at that time and had 8 shows, and the national agency for Chevrolet said, we'll sponsor you, but you can't show kill shots. So we said, well, scrap those 8 shows we shot. So we threw out the hunting show. But anyway, we went with Discovery Channel, NBC Sports, and the Outdoor Channel. And then I had the idea to do a saltwater show. I couldn't even spell saltwater, but we went with it. And we found out our best demographics were the Sportsman Channel and the Outdoor Channel. And so that's where we went, and that's where we are today. So,
well, I'm glad you listened to Mr. Scott and your wife, because as a young kid as a young kid growing up, and I'm sure many of your fans, there wasn't as many vices out there for as they are today to keep a kid inside. But I knew when you were on, and I watched you every time your show was on. So I appreciate it.
Bless your heart. I appreciate it. It was good. It was a good deal back then. I mean, we were really doing well, and we had good sponsors. And believe it or not, we still have some of the sponsors today that we had even back then. Some of them still believe in us, and we've had some sponsors for right at 50 years.
Wow. Well, Bill, obviously television is a really important way to promote fishing. It's hooked Dowe. It hooked me. I grew up with it. I'm the same age as your show, so I started watching you as a young kid also. We see you at a lot of different shows, and one thing that really impresses me is your interaction with young kids. Can you tell us how important it is to promote fishing to young people today?
Well, it's extremely important. The future of our great sport depends on promoting fishing with our youth and promoting conservation with our youth. We're living at a different time. I can remember years ago, 53% of our country was in agriculture, and a high percentage of our youth lived in the country. Today, I would say that 3% or less than 10%, way less than 10% of our country, our families live in the country. They live in the cities now, and they didn't grow up. They didn't grow up like I did, and like many of that 53% did. We grew up hunting, and we grew up fishing, and what we caught in the creeks and what we caught in the small lakes and caught in the ponds, we cleaned and we brought home and we ate. And we had daddies and we had granddaddies that taught us how to fish and taught us how to shoot a rifle and taught us how to shoot a shotgun and taught us how to call ducks and taught us how to gobble up a turkey. And we don't have that anymore. And back then we didn't have as many single parent families. Today we have that, and it's so important. It's extremely important that we find ways to promote fishing interests and opportunities among all generations, and to educate our young and show them how to fish and show them how to hunt. And I see this especially in the summer months with these little kid fishing events. There's hundreds and hundreds of kids. The Memphis Light, Gas, and Water puts on a big fishing event for kids. And I see all these little kids come out. They don't know which end of a cane pole to tie a line to. They don't know how to hold a they don't know the difference in a spinning rod to a push button rod. They don't know the difference in a fly rod to a bait casting rod. They don't know the difference in a hook. They don't know the difference in a red worm to a cricket. And the mother's there, and she's trying to explain to them how to put a red worm on a hook, or how to put a cricket on a hook. And she's scared to touch the worm, or she's scared to. They're just totally uneducated, but they want so bad to catch a fish. And to see that child catch that fish, it doesn't matter how big the fish is. It's just the fact that they caught a fish and the enjoyment there. But knowing that kid will probably never get to come back again, or it wants to come back so bad, but will he have the opportunity to come back? I've been to many of these little rodeos where the first-time angler, where they just line the bank, and it really makes me sad to consider that it's their first fishing trip. May be just some of those kids' last, but it's as I said, it's just extremely important that we find ways to promote fishing interests and opportunities among all generations. Someone asked me once, what is your greatest fishing accomplishment? Was it a particular tournament win? Was it a record fish you caught? Was it uh, a particular award that you won? Well, all of those are very, very special. But one of my greatest fishing accomplishments was watching each one of my children catch their very first fish. And then getting to watch each one of my grandchildren catch their very first fish. The excitement, the smile, the size of their eyes. We just need to share that excitement with everyone. And if we don't have a child to do that with, the next door neighbor's got one, or the kid behind down the road's got one. I was blessed as a youngster growing up that I had a daddy and a granddaddy that gave me the greatest gift of all. And that was teaching me how to fish or taking me fishing. But my granddaddy, they were both doctors. And for 5 generations back in my family, they were all doctors. But as busy as they were, they're all gone now, but I can always thank them. As busy as they were, they took time to teach me the importance of conservation and the importance of sharing their time to teach me how to fish. And that's something that I'll never forget. Those bonding times were very, very special. So,
well, Bill, we can see that when you're at a show and you're talking to the young kids. We can see that how important it is. Well,
it is, because most of them really don't even know what you're talking about, but
right.
Some of them do, and some of them, the older you get, and that's just why these high school tournaments and these collegiate tournaments are so important, because they're going to set an example. They're going to keep the sport going, and that's so important.
Yes, sir. And I'll tell you, they may not know what you're talking about, but they know you, and I can see them running all the way across the auditoriums at all the shows. So we're going to jump to the not so serious questions now. John, you ready to dive in?
Yes. So Bill, these are going to be kind of a little quicker questions here, and let's go ahead and get started. So now that we're getting into the holiday season, as a little kid, what was the best Christmas present you received?
What was the best Christmas present I ever received?
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what. I thought about that. Unfortunately, when I was little, my parents separated, and I spent a lot of time in the country and with my grandparents. And but then I came to the city, and my mother probably taught Amy Vanderbilt most of the things she knows. But anyway, I had a city, when I was little, I had a paper route. But I had a morning route in Memphis. We had a morning paper and an afternoon paper. The afternoon paper wasn't as big a paper, but it was a pretty good sized paper. But anyway, I had a morning route and I had an afternoon route. And I worked that route to where I didn't have to collect weeklies. I worked it to where I could collect monthlies. And I built that route up, and I mowed yards. And it gave me enough time to mow yards. And the reason I was saving my money, there was a rod and reel that I wanted to buy. It was a real nice Shakespeare rod and reel. And my granddaddy always told me, and my daddy said, if you're going to buy something, buy quality. There's no substitute. There's no substitute for quality. You buy something good, it'll last you a long time. So I knew this one rod and reel that I really wanted to buy. And it was a Shakespeare rod and reel, and I really wanted to buy that rod and reel. And I remember why I wanted to buy it. And so I saved my money And of course, I always got Christmas money. And so I saved it. And I remember I gave it to my mother on Mother's Day. And I worked real hard throwing papers and mowing yards to buy that rod and reel for Mother. But my mother didn't fish. And I knew that if I played my cards right, that she'd give it to me next Christmas. And sure enough, the best Christmas present I got was that rod and reel.
So your best Christmas present was a present you bought yourself for your mother for Mother's Day that you got for Christmas. Is that correct?
I got it. I got it. And that was one of the best. That was one of the best. And she said, since I don't use this and since I don't get to go fishing, she said, sometime if you take me fishing, maybe you'll let me use this rod and reel. You use it, but I want you to have it, and you use it. You'll use it. You'll probably get more use out of it than me. So why don't you use it till that time comes? And I turned around, I doubled my fist up. I said, yes.
Bill, I want to thank you. Now I know what to get my wife for Christmas.
See, you have to use psychology. And
yes, sir.
But that was one of the best. That was one of the best presents. One of the best presents that I ever got.
Bill, what advice would you give someone trying to pursue the same career as you?
I would start by maybe visiting a psychiatrist. No, not really. This job requires a lot of time and effort. It requires working with a lot of very, very talented people that know a whole lot more than I do. But to start with, you need some kind of a track record of success in this field. It would be difficult to start a fishing show if you had no experience in fishing. It'd be like, I want to get into racing cars. I couldn't do what Martin Truex does without experience. I would have to. I need experience. You need experience. Then you would have to get sponsorship. And let me tell you right now, that is difficult to do these days. Believe me. I think you have to have a good track record to be able to do that. I get a lot of mail from youngsters that say, "Hey, I want to get in. I want to get into. I'd like to get into what you do." Well, the first thing with a youngster, the first thing you need is a good education. Without that, you're not going to get anywhere. And then you got to start with a good track record, and you have to build on that. Sponsors look at someone that's got a good personality, that can sell themselves, that can sell the public on themselves, that can sell product, that have a winning record. I think someone with a lot of fishing success, with a good personality, with a winning career, would have a much better chance of going far in this career than someone with no experience. I came along at the right time. I was very blessed that I was extremely fortunate that I had a lot of fishing experience, that I had fished moving water. I had fished oxbow lakes. I had fished with experienced fishermen, not people my age, but elderly people, older people. And I had fished with some very good anglers. Floyd Mabry, one of the best shallow water fishermen. Glenn Andrews. It was fished Highland reservoirs. I listened and I asked lots of questions when I was very young. He taught me so much about deep water fish. Floyd Mabry taught me about shallow water patterns. I listened. I asked lots of questions back in those early days, and then
Yeah,
I was
well, Bill, Dow asked that question for a reason because he was thinking of starting his own TV show, and I told him no. There's no way you can start your own TV show. No one's going to follow you, and this just confirms it. So I appreciate that.
Tell him if he can wear a teacup and some sunglasses. I got one he can have pretty cheap.
Bill, I've got a face for radio, so you're good.
Well,
but it's just experience is the greatest teacher in the world, and you just got to have a track record, and you got to be at the right place at the right time, and you got to have a lot of experienced people behind you to help you along, and a lot of talented people behind you to help you along. And I had that. I had the Floyd Mabrys. I had the Buck Perrys. I had the Glenn Andrews. I had those people behind me. I knew a lot of the people in the industry.
We're going to get moving along here.
So, yeah, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So the next section here, we wanted to do 10 rapid fire questions. So I'm going to throw 10 questions at you. And the first thing that comes to mind, just go ahead and blurt it out. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. Faster than that. All right. Number 1, favorite pizza topping.
Pizza? Did you say pizza?
Pizza topping.
Oh, double onion, bell pepper, hamburger, and now my cardiologist ain't gonna like this. But I would say double onion, bell pepper, hamburger, and sausage.
That's a lot of toppings.
I love it. All meat, but no pepperoni. I don't like pepperoni.
Favorite snack on the boat.
Favorite snack on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite snack on the boat. I'm gonna say.
You better not say sardines.
No, beanie weenies.
There you go. There you go.
Cheese crackers and smoked hyenas.
That's a staple.
Yeah. All right. 3 things you would bring if stranded on a deserted island.
I would bring a boat, a motor, and enough gas to get my butt home.
That's the best answer we've had on that one.
Yes. Nickname your parents or friends used to call you.
My daddy called me idiot child. No.
No.
I think my dad knew your dad.
Yeah. My uncle used to call me idiot child. Billy boy. My daddy called me Billy boy.
Billy boy.
Yeah.
Favorite musical group?
Well, probably a lot of people probably wouldn't remember them, but I like the Platters and the Beatles.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they were fairly popular. The Beatles.
Yeah.
What hairstyle did you have in high school?
About what I've got now, a mohawk. No. No,
Purple.
I'd say about what I've got now.
Nice. Pick one.
But a little bit more hair.
So pick one: super strength or become invisible.
I'd say you could call me the fluorocarbon man. Invisible.
Invisible. There you go. What is your most unusual talent?
Lord, my most unusual talent. Lordy mercy.
Too many to pick from.
Walking on water because I know where the rocks are.
There you go.
There you go. And finally, your favorite Garmin Marine unit.
Echo 12 with I love the Echo 12 because of the traditional sonar and Panoptix.
Yeah, that's a hard combination to beat right there.
Yep.
That's it. That would be it.
Yep.
Perfect.
I agree.
But you said I don't know if I've answered everything y'all want. I know I've.
You did a great job. And Mr. Dance, we really want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Behind the Chartplotter. We appreciate you answering our serious and not so serious questions. Hopefully we didn't put you on the hot seat too much.
No, man, I enjoyed every bit of it.
And don't forget,
I had a good time with y'all, and I hope we can all get together here. This mess, we'll get through this mess, which we will.
Yeah,
and I'll get to see you at a show down the road.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
So don't forget to watch Bill Dance Outdoors on the Outdoor Channel and Bill Dance Saltwater on the Sportsman's Channel.
That's where we'll be.
Yes, sir. So guys, join us next month on Behind the Chartplotter, where we'll be joined by the host of the Florida Insider and Texas Insider Fishing Report, as well as the host of Sportsman's Adventure, one of the most exciting saltwater fishing shows on TV, Captain Rick Murphy. So on behalf of John and myself, we want to thank you for joining us. Until next time, we'll see you on the water.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about all the things Garmin's got you through. We can talk about lakes and the ocean too. 'Cause our host Dowe and John wanna hear about the fishing you do. 'Cause we took our Garmin to the ends of the sea. The radar led us where we needed to be. Nothing we can't find in all the water. We want to hear about the holes and the beds and the reef, the keepers and the roughs and the catch and release. Let's talk about everything from reel to bobber. Behind the Chartplotter. Yeah.